welcome to another episode of This Is Metal with Joe Lawson. Today we're going to be talking about the band Forbidden. And Joe, I don't know too much about this band, so I'm going to let you just kind of take it from here and start the show off. Tell us how you first became a fan of the band.
Okay, well, Forbidden's one of those bands that I had heard of, all along.
Yeah.
For years, knew who they were. Really wasn't that familiar with them. And to be quite honest, even right now, I'm not. And it wasn't until I was doing an interview for the last Scream King album, and the host of the show asked me if I knew who this was, and he played the song, and I'm like, wow,
pretty good.
Fantastic drumming and really good stuff, and good vocals, and I'm like, gosh, I don't. It sounds like something old school, really familiar, and I was shocked when he told me it was Forbidden, and I'm like, wow, I got to get more familiar with these guys, man.
Yeah. And
so that kind of led me on a little search, and I'm glad I did, because their first two albums are absolute thrash
masterpieces,
if you will. So if you're into that genre, you're into that style of music, what they do is pretty amazing. And there's a loose affiliation with how Forbidden got their name. They got their name from a Chicago band called War Cry.
Okay.
I had a song called Forbidden, and they thought it was cool and they liked it, and they named their band Forbidden. Well, War Cry, my guitarist, Michael Giordano, and Phil Fouch, my bassist from Dragonlore, did a reunion show with these guys a few years back. War Cry did a one-off show, I believe it was at Reggie's in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
And they played that show, and so it's kind of neat to see that loose connection there is connected to the band Forbidden. So.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I remember growing up, and when you used to have magazines like Hit Parader, Metal Edge, and even Circus Magazine, you used to see like their ads and for some of their albums like in the back of these magazines, and I wasn't too familiar, but I've heard the name, I've seen their album covers, but very much like you, I know very little about the band, and so when you decide, hey, you said, why don't we do a show on Forbidden? I started to kind of look up the band, like you said, Joe, and they were saying that probably the debut album is considered this band's kind of like masterpiece. And for metal that time, it was really kind of just the critics and fans and everybody were really loving that debut album. And then by the time they got to the second album, still very much a metal band, but they tried to go like and get a little more progressive with like progressive metal, and they were trying new things. But people are, even all these years later, they point to that debut album like a lot of bands, they had their whole life to kind of write those songs, and that's the album that everybody all these years later still points to.
Yeah, and they had Paul Bostaph on drums, who went on to play with Slayer and Testament, and I think Gene Hoglan played in the band as well.
Yeah.
They've had some Rob Flynn, Tim Calvert. They've had some amazing players throughout their career, and some of the best musicians out there were actually part of this band at one point in time.
Yeah, it's kind of that's what kind of, when I was reading up on the band, that's kind of what interested me the most, is seeing like this band Forbidden. It's amazing they weren't much bigger, because it's like Forbidden is an interesting kind of little footnote in the history of metal. If you talk about all these guys that have gone through the band and see what they went on to, even like Rob Flynn, he's now of course in Machine Head, and I'm not really a big fan of what they do. I don't really follow them, but that's a name. Just being a metal fan, that's a name I've heard throughout the years. So I said, well, so that's where he got his start,
Yeah, absolutely, and the first two records, 1988, Forbidden Evil, that's the classic,
Yeah.
I think that was released on Combat Records. And Twisted into Form was their second one, released in 1990.
Yeah.
Both I highly recommend, and I think are really great albums. And, they had a few other albums out throughout their careers, and I don't know that any of them really quite reached the cult status that the first two albums did, but it's good that they continued on and they put out multiple other albums out there that are excellent too.
Yeah, and just to give people a time frame when we're talking, Forbidden was formed in 1985, and they were part of the San Francisco thrash scene, and so. That whole thrash scene was just at the time in 1985. It was just kind of starting to form, and other bands such as Testament and Exodus and all that, they were part of that thrash scene. And even Metallica, the thrash scene in San Francisco had so much impact. Even Metallica, which was a Los Angeles band, moved all the way to San Francisco to be part of that thrash scene.
Yeah, and even in 2008, Century Media re-released a live bootleg of recordings called Raw Evil, live at the Dynamo.
Yeah.
And in which they covered Victim of Changes.
Wow.
And Forbidden Evil, Chalice of Blood, Through Eyes of Glass. That's some of the more popular songs.
And the band, it said, broke up in 1997 for the first time, and then they briefly reformed again in 2001, and then again in 2007, and they've been kind of inactive ever since 2012. So they haven't really said if they're coming back or not. I guess it's a wait and see thing.
Yeah. It would be really cool to see them, to see some kind of incarnation of this band make a comeback and put another album out. I know I would really enjoy that. I think there's a lot of other thrash fans out there that would appreciate it as well. Just some really good stuff, and it's not your typical thrash vocals either. The vocalist I think was really good.
Yeah, and then
Russ Anderson.
And then I was reading that they really, like you said, found critical acclaim with that debut album from 1988, and to this day it's considered like a thrash metal classic album. And on the second album, which was Twisted into Form, the band showcased more melodic, progressive sound, but yet it was still metal. It just wasn't so in your face. And it's funny because a lot of the stuff, when I listened to some of these albums, I was noticing some of the songs. Not only is it very heavy, but a lot of these songs, for whatever reason, are really centered around the drummer. There's several songs where the vocal's a very important part of a song, but it's almost like the vocal is secondary, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's an aggressive style of music, and it's definitely how do I want to say it? It's not your typical sing along.
Even metal,
line and chorus, and typical average, hard rock or metal band. It's not that at all. But it's great thrash metal music, and like I said, some of the biggest names in thrash metal have graced the ranks of this band that time is almost forgotten, but not they didn't slip through our fingers, at least, right?
Yeah. In fact, you've been wanting to do this show for a while, Joe, and it got pushed back a couple times, but you were pretty insistent, and so I thought, okay, I better go check out this band Forbidden, and I'm kind of glad you pushed me to do that, because again, like you said, it's a great. If you're not aware of who they are and you're listening to this band for the first time, it's a great band to really discover. Especially when you consider they got this long history. They go all the way back to like 1988. And again, it's really like discovering a great new band for the first time. And what really impressed me about Forbidden is oftentimes when you're listening to a band for the first time, you're like, who does this band remind me of? And I can honestly say, okay, they no doubt are a metal band, but there's something about this band. They've got their own kind of unique original sound. And that's a hard thing to do, especially with when you're a metal band. Their influences are not really kind of flowing out, if you know what I mean. They really got something original going.
Yeah, and I think their last record Omega Wave in 2010 was maybe the last that we'll hear from these guys, but there's some good stuff on that as well. There's some videos out there that you can check out on YouTube and whatnot. Another name worth mentioning that graced the ranks of Forbidden was Steve Smith, who went on to play with Nevermore.
Oh, wow, yeah. And that's another band, maybe in a couple of weeks we're going to be doing a show on, because Joe's been wanting to talk a little bit about that, Joe, because I think you said you wanted to kind of do a show on Nevermore and Sanctuary. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just think that those two bands make for a unique combination. They have the connection there is Warrell Dane, the vocalist, of course, and Dave Mustaine did their debut album, Sanctuary, and so there's some interesting history
I even think I remember. Yeah, I even remember Sanctuary, hearing that they had opened for a tour or two with Megadeth.
Yeah, they had some real promising times back in the day, and then they also reunited. And the last show that I played with Scream King, we opened up for Sanctuary in Chicago.
Wow!
So that was pretty awesome. And the vocalist Warrell Dane has since then passed away, of course. But before reuniting or doing anything with Sanctuary, there was a period of time where he had put a band together called Nevermore, in which, in my opinion, is probably the most original, most unique heavy metal band that I've heard probably in 20, 30 years.
Yeah, oh, wow, that's really saying something.
Yeah.
And in doing my research for the show tonight, Joe, I decided, okay, I was going to listen to like 4 songs off the first album, and let's go down the list here. But first, I listened to Off the Edge, which to me, the thing that's really apparent in that song is great riffing, heavy drums. It's no doubt it's metal all the way, heavy screaming vocals, and again, quite an original sound. You put this on, and it's really like nothing I've heard before. I mean, yeah, it sounds like a metal band, but you know what I mean? It doesn't sound like Sabbath. It doesn't sound like Judas Priest. It doesn't sound like Iron Maiden, or all these bands that we grew up on, you know?
Yeah. I mean, they got their own sound, and I mean, you can listen to it and tell that this is a Bay Area thrash metal band for sure. I mean, if you're familiar with that genre of music or any of that movement, music wise, I mean, you can hear it in their playing. I guess some bands that sound familiar or similar to me, would be bands like Death Angel.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Death Angel's another band from that scene, and the interesting thing is about the San Francisco thrash scene is I remember, when I was growing up back in the day, you had the like San Francisco bands kind of going up against the LA bands, and it was like LA sucks, but this was really a developing scene like we'd never seen before, and they got just as big as the LA scene did at the time, but sadly, if you look at the LA music scene today, I can honestly say, living here, it is not what it used to be. Sadly. Yeah. A lot of things, unfortunately, have changed greatly. But we're really fortunate to have grown up in the time that we did, and to be able to have the conversations that we have, and the history, growing up with this music and stuff. To us, it's priceless. And I think I shared this with you, Joe.
That's
before.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm kind of old school in the sense that I still like to, have physical CDs. I mean, I get most of my music on Amazon and stuff because I still like holding it in my hand, like reading who wrote the songs and who played on the album and all that. I mean, kids today, I think, are really missing the experience we had when we were growing up of going to an actual record store and looking for an album and spending all day in there. I mean, even where I'm from, where people think, Los Angeles, there must be a music store in every corner. You got to be kidding me! Not anymore. Not even in Hollywood. I mean, you got to really go far to even find a record store anywhere these days.
Oh yeah. I mean, sadly, that's kind of the way it is in a lot of places. I'm fortunate enough there's still some music stores around, and close by actually too. So
yeah, I mean the closest to me is like you can go to Target, but even that, I mean, about all you're going to find there is the Beach Boys' greatest hits. I mean, they don't have a huge selection. So
no, yeah, I try and support the mom and pop, the smaller record shops that are closer by here, and because there's not many of them left,
Yeah, and I must say I was even surprised. My local Target had like quite a few copies of the latest Iron Maiden album. I mean, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and you know that as an artist too, Joe. Talking a little bit about technology. I mean, even just to print up a CD, your band CD, that takes some major funding, and everybody pretty much. And the problem is talking about technology, everybody kind of. Oh, I mean, I remember the big thing was, I got my MP3 file of all my latest music, or I've got it all downloaded into my computer. I mean, as great as technology is, sometimes it kills things,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the Nice. I remember the Nice thing a couple of years ago. I went to see the band Tesla. It was about 10 or 15 years ago, actually, when they came out with like a cover CD. It was actually a 2-volume cover CD. You could buy the first volume of the CD. You could go to Best Buy and buy it, and then if you wanted to get the second volume, you had to go see the band live when they came to your town. And as you're walking into the concert hall, they would hand you a free CD. I thought, hey, that's pretty cool,
Yeah, absolutely. And something else interesting too with Forbidden was their consistent ties with the band Testament. Like I said, I mentioned Paul Bostaph and Gene Hoglan, both drummers who ended up at one point in time.
And I think I was reading Dave Lombardo had also gone through Forbidden, I believe.
What's that?
I was reading, I think Dave Lombardo from Slayer, he also was at the band in this band briefly.
Oh wow, yeah. See, that's new to me. I didn't know that. I knew Gene Hoglan and like I said, Paul Bostaph played in the band, and they both those guys obviously played drums for Testament at one point in time. I think Gene Hoglan still is in Testament, and Tim Calvert and guitarist Glenn Alvarez. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that name right, but
kind of a who's who of thrash, yeah.
Yeah, all these guys that were at one point in time in Testament or ended up joining Testament after or something, came through the ranks of Forbidden. So that's kind of an interesting connection, worthy of noting there.
Oh, well, yeah, that is. Now let me ask you, Joe, because talk about some of these San Francisco bands. Were you? I believe you told me you're a pretty big fan of Testament. I mean, how big of a fan?
Oh yeah, I love them. I mean, for like the heavy stuff, they're definitely one of my favorite bands for heavy music.
And their guitar player,
Alex. I love Chuck Billy's voice, and I think their technicality doesn't supersede their songwriting. What I mean by that is they can get technical and do some really impressive stuff, from a musical standpoint, but they don't lose sight of writing a kick-ass song and a good groove and some good riffs and good drumming, and they still have elements of good songwriting in everything they do. They're able to make a nice blend of that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Alex Golnick, he's quite the guitar player. I mean, he's got this side project he does called the Alex Golnick Trio, and they do like jazz and infusion stuff, but it's just he's amazing at what he does.
Yeah. All those guys in that band are just top-notch musicians, and again, I think it's made for a killer band, and they've definitely left their mark.
Oh, no doubt.
In the thrash world, for sure.
They're one of those bands, I think, too, that should have been much bigger than what they are. I mean, I think they could have been like, if there was a big five, they would have been right there after Slayer and all of them, those bands.
Yeah. I mean, to each their own, but in my opinion, I like them better than Slayer.
Oh yeah.
For heavy music,
see, Slayer,
they're one of my favorite.
Slayer was one of those bands. I'm aware of who they are, and I guess I give them kudos for what they are. But if you think about it, mostly the reason people are into Slayer because of those screaming vocals. I mean, it's like Slayer. That's basically what they're known for. And I guess, if you got a singer that can sing like that, more power to you, because there's not a lot of guys that can sing like that. But that's kind of their trademark, I guess, or what they're known for. How big of a fan are you, Joe, of Exodus?
You know what? I wasn't a huge fan of those guys. I mean, kudos to them, and they're talented. I mean, and they're another one, for the thrash metal scene of that time. I mean, they were definitely right there in that lineup with those other bands, I mean, for sure. But, I just didn't feel a big connection with them. I'm not real familiar, to be honest, with all of their stuff, I'm sure if I sat down and listened to more of their stuff, I probably would find stuff that I liked, and I'm not aware of, or that I've forgotten about, or whatever. But
see, I'm honestly the same way. I know of who they are. I know, that's a band that Kirk Hammett was in, like you said before, Metallica. I can't even really name a song. I'd have to kind of go and do my homework on them to give an honest kind of opinion. But I will say this, for a band like that to be around as long as they have, there must be something to what they do. I mean, because if it was really crappy music, they wouldn't have lasted this long,
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they definitely have a strong fan base, and that whole genre, like I said, they grew up in that same time. They came up in the same era as all these other bands did, and so they definitely deserve all the respect and all of that too, But I'm just not super familiar with them. Same thing. I'm just being honest. That's what this is about.
That's what this is.
This is metal. Yeah. I wasn't really even all that familiar with Forbidden. Again, it was a name that I've heard for years. Yeah. I mean, and I just wasn't really. I just never really sat down, listened to them, and checked them out really that much. And I wish I would have, because like I said, this interview that they did not long ago, I heard this song and I'm like, man, these guys are kick ass. Who is this? And I don't know. Yeah. And he told me, this is Forbidden, and from their album Twisted in Form, and he said, told me to check out the first two albums, and I'm glad I did. I'm like, man, these are some pretty kick-ass records.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy about what we do, Joe. And I got to let the audience kind of really know about this. I mean, you just kind of said it yourself, but anytime that we do an episode or we talk about, hey, what should we do the next episode on? Joe and I have these long conversations. Sometimes it's through email, sometimes it's through text or whatever. But so a lot of times Joe knows a lot more about these bands than I do, and so I tell myself, like, well, before I go and do a show on this, I'm going to do my home. We got a week's time till the next show, so I'm going to go listen to some of the music. I'm going to check out their website, read up on the band. So at least when we do the show, I can give an honest opinion instead of just say, well, that band sucks, but I haven't listened to their music. That you sound like an idiot. Then at least you can give an honest opinion. And Joe is just as much like that. Like, he'll tell me, well, I never really heard of a band, or I'll have to check them out. And that way we can give you an honest opinion, because I'm not going to tell somebody a band sucks if I haven't listened to their music. And I'd much rather. Like, I had somebody ask me once, Joe, hey man, every time, like, I used to write up these CD reviews. Somebody asked me, how come you always give all these CDs you review a great review? I go, well, I'm not going to bother writing a review for an album that, I think sucks. I mean, first of all, I have respect for anybody that's in a band and creates music. That's something I wish I could do, but I can never do. So, if somebody could even write a song and they get in the studio and create something, I got respect for that, and so I would much rather, if it's something I like, kind of, spread the love, as they say, Joe, and that's kind of what we're doing here. And I really enjoy, like I told you before, doing This Is Metal, because it kind of educates me on some of these bands that I'm not aware of, and kind of like we're talking about Forbidden tonight. Oh yeah, again, how the hell did I miss listening to these guys?
Yeah. There's so much good music out there that deserves credit, and if we can introduce even just a few people to some of it, then it's mission accomplished for me. I mean, that's definitely part of the joy of doing this.
Yeah, and I got to tell people, like, we just posted our Motley Crue episode, and that's one of my favorite episodes we've ever done for a lot of reasons, but. I mean, Joe was lit up in that episode, and I think that I'm saying that in a good way, Joe, because you get real passionate, and people can tell, I think, when they listen back, that we're really into this stuff. And like me and Joe were just talking last night about some shows we're planning in the future, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what we're talking about. Okay, we did the episode on Motley Crue. I think let's devote an hour to John Corabi. Give that guy some love, because he's done a lot of stuff outside of Motley Crue that people may not even be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. And Def Leppard and Sanctuary, Nevermore. So we got some good stuff coming up for sure.
And we're gonna, in about 2 weeks from now, we're gonna be doing an episode on Anthrax. But what we're gonna kind of talk about the whole 40 years of Anthrax, because 2021 marks their 40th anniversary. So I think that's pretty special in itself.
Yeah. It's quite a landmark.
And then finally, I want to let people know another thing we were discussing the other day, Joe, that I'm pretty excited about this, that the debut album from KK's Priest just came out, and I've been loving it. And we're going to do an episode dedicated to KK's Priest for a couple of reasons. Well, first of all, we're Judas Priest fans, so there's that connection. Tim Owens and KK are in the band, obviously. And so I thought we could kind of have a review of the album, so to speak, talk about what we think of the band. And I'm digging the fact that every time we've done an episode so far, it's kind of been on a classic metal band, a band that's been around for several years. KK's Priest, I'm digging the fact that it's relatively a new band, and I think we're going to start doing that more and more, not just do kind of old established bands, but kind of newer bands as well, to shine a light on them.
Yeah, it's like finding a needle in the haystack, but there's some bands out there that are amazing and absolutely worthy of discussing and doing a show on, and they deserve to be brought to the light and ran through the gamut of This Is Metal.
Yeah, and I think we'll talk about it more when we do the KK's Priest episode, but I remember when they were starting to post some of the videos a couple months back, and people were going crazy online saying, "Oh, it sounds just like Judas." Well, what do you expect? I mean, I could see if,
what did you really think it was going to sound like?
I could see if KK Downey came out and said, "Okay, I'm not gonna do metal guitar anymore. I'm gonna put out a country album, or a ballet album." People will be like, "What the hell?" So
right.
I think at least he's sticking to his roots.
Yeah, absolutely. That was another reason why I wanted to do this show too, is like I said, the connection that I have with members of my band.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that until recently. I mean, I know that those guys did a one-off show and are friends with the guys from Warcry, and I knew about that. And then when I was doing research for our show tonight with Forbidden, and I found out that that's how they got their band name, I'm like, you got to be shitting me!
Wow.
What a small world,
Yeah, it really is.
They mentioned it right in Wikipedia, I believe it was, the Chicago band Warcry, and I'm like, I'll be damned.
that is interesting. And let me ask you, Joe, being that you are a performer, I've always kind of been curious about this. Like when you go see a band and it's between bands, like, does the band get to choose like the music they play in between the sets, or is that all up to the club or wherever the show is?
Usually that's the sound guy, the club,
okay,
that kind of does that, takes care of that. Yeah. I've done shows years ago where we booked the show, we were doing everything, and we did that. We decided what songs were played, in between sets and stuff, and that was fun kind of too, and I missed that aspect of it. That was kind of we could kind of control the atmosphere and the
that's pretty cool,
the party and
warm
the
up
mood
the crowd
and everything by doing that. Music does that.
Yeah, that's why I love doing a show with you, because you kind of got that angle too. I can ask you questions like that, because I think that'd be a great way to kind of warm up the crowd, for right before you go on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we used to even being in a thrash metal band when I was younger. We would do stuff like have AC/DC, For Those About to Rock, play before we went on stage, and just stuff that we liked. We would just pick whatever we wanted, and it was was fun that way, you know.
Oh, I bet. And you know, while we're on the subject of, you know, Judas Priest related stuff, I should probably mention, I'm sure you're aware of this, but about 2 weeks ago, Judas Priest had to pull themselves off the road because their guitar player, Richie Faulkner, had a heart attack.
Yeah, I heard about that, man. That's terrible.
Wow, you know, he's a fan of all these old guys. He's the youngest one in the band, and he's the last one.
And he's the one that has the heart attack? Yeah.
Yeah. And just amazing. And I guess I'll announce this too, because I don't know if you're aware of this or not, Joe, but I just got this press release that the new Three Tremors album's coming out in November. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
From our friend Sean Peck.
I posted in our group, This Is Metal group page, Bone Crusher, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Bone Breaker, Bone Crusher, something like that.
Something like that. I'm in the process
from the new album, and I'll say this much: I think the production is much better. So I was happy to hear that. The song sounds great, but the production, from my personal perspective and viewpoint, is better than the production on the first album. So
well, you would know because
a huge plus too.
Yeah, being a musician yourself, like I can honestly say, for the most part, when I put on a CD or something, I'm not as technical. You know, my ear's not as technical maybe as yours because you're a musician. I just kind of, these are great songs. I'm digging this, but there's been one or a few occasions when I can think of a CD I put on and it wasn't that great. But so you can really hear the difference in just listening to some of the stuff that you've heard, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, it's like anything else. You know, the more you do something, the more fine tuned and the more honed in you get on a lot of different things. And so yeah, I can tell right away when I hear something. You know, oh, the drums are too loud, or oh, the vocals are too loud, or oh, you know, this sounds distorted, or that, you know, could have been a little bit better, a little clearer, a little cleaner. You know, different things like that pop out to me. You know, and especially, you know, having done sat in the engineer's seat and mixed and mastered the Dragonlore album. You know, that was a huge learning curve for me. You know, and my ear got even better when I did that because it got forced to get better.
Oh yeah. And so, you know, another thing I should mention is I'm in the process of setting up another interview with our friend Sean Peck. So I'm looking forward to talking to him about the new CD. And I think the interesting thing is Three Tremors is kind of now a proven entity. I mean, when they did their first album, nobody really knew what to expect, and then we were pretty impressed with that debut album. And then they did the kind of solo song thing, and so this is really like their third release. So now when they go back out on the road, they got like 3 albums worth of material now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then I hear that there's going to be new Death Dealer EPs coming I think in November. So a lot of stuff coming from those guys.
Yeah, sounds great, man. Looking forward to it. Absolutely.
And I think Tim O's got to be in a great spot too, because not only is he in KK's Priest,
Three Tremors and KK's Priest. Yeah,
they're like practically launching both those bands at the same time. I mean that would.
Yeah, he'll be a busy guy here soon. Mm-hmm.
Making the money finally. That'll be nice.
Well, hopefully so. I really do. Yeah. I hope the best for those guys, and they absolutely deserve it. So buy the album, buy the T-shirts, and go see them when they come around.
That's what it's all.
Absolutely.
That's what it's all about. And Joe, I was just curious because you just mentioned your band Dragonlore. Anything currently going on with them? You guys are thinking about a second album yet?
Well, we were going to go start working on songs in the studio, and the producer that we were going to work with was in the hospital.
Oh, wow. So
we're waiting to see how that situation pans out. And
everybody's in the hospital these days.
Yeah, everybody's just kind of, you know, it's just everything's kind of in limbo. But the second Dragonlore record, the pre-production recordings have been written and recorded. There's the whole album about 90% of the way done.
Oh, wow.
So it's just a matter of going into the studio and re-recording everything with the producer properly, you know, and getting it out there. So and hopefully we will. Hopefully that'll see the light of day sometime before I'm done making music, I guess.
And I hear you get a little tired there, Joe. I know you've been working hard at your day job and everything you do. So before we wrap it up, I guess we should also let people know share with me what you're saying today that kind of happened on Facebook, because people are going to be looking on Facebook and wondering what happened to Joe Lawson.
Well, without getting too political, I just I seen something that kind of made me laugh and made me laugh out loud, and I thought this is hilarious. I gotta put this into something, and I made a post about. I'm just sick of all the Nazi mandates and forced bullshit that the controlling ruling party is trying to shove up everybody's ass.
Oh yeah, I mean
I'm a rebellious creature by habit, anyways, so I don't need much prompting. This really has really ruffled my feathers and twisted my shit. So I made a comment on there, something about that you would be better off sandpaper in a lion's ass and pork chop panties than trying to force me to take this poison vaccine, just in a joking way. And Facebook, they just got all their panties in a bunch over it, and locked me out of my account, both of my accounts.
Wow.
And so I couldn't post anything, I couldn't like anything, and they've done this one or two other times, and I just decided, you know what, if you don't have freedom of speech and you can't say what you want and you can't even joke around with anybody or say anything anymore, then fuck it. I'll just do what I want to do on my own terms, and I'm not going to support Facebook anymore and give them any more of my time. So,
and This Is Metal will continue without that. We don't really need it, but I will say this, Joe, just to kind of put a cap on what you were saying in regards to all the mandates and BS and stuff. I mean, I could not believe when our own president of the United States, I see him get on TV the other night, and he's laughing about the fact because of his mandates, all these people have been fired. I mean, usually the president will get on TV, brag about all the new jobs and all that are out there and stuff, and this idiot's bragging about all the people who got fired because of what he did. I just never seen.
Well, why wouldn't he? I mean, he stole the election, so he has nothing. He has nothing to fear. They can do whatever they want. They've destroyed the country in 9 months, and that's by numbers, not opinion, not political party.
It's there.
Just factual information, and it is what it is. But,
I mean, and to really put the final cap of the coffin tonight before we wrap it up. I mean, just proof of what you're saying. I mean, have you seen all those people chanting at all the local baseball games? F Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Yeah. Wow. Never before has that ever happened, but wow. But that just kind of says where we are right now.
Yeah, people have had an ass full of it. They're sick of it. And hopefully maybe something will get done about that. But,
we will see. Well,
in the meantime, we're going to keep enjoying great metal like Forbidden.
Yeah, and next week we're going to be talking about Def Leppard, but it's the 40th anniversary of their second album, and just kind of to tell people what we'll be talking about is me and Joe are kind of on the two polar ends of Def Leppard. He's not much of a fan. Well, I'm a lot more of a fan. I like everything they've done, but kind of where we're going to be, since this is metal, what we're going to be talking about is the fact that if you go back to Def Leppard's first two albums, they were really much more of a metal band on those two albums, and they kind of, with the third album on, they were really turned into much more of a pop band, and we're going to be talking all about that.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting
conversation,
interesting episode. Definitely.
So Joe, you get some rest, and I'll be chatting with you next week. Take care, my friend.
Likewise.
Okay, bye-bye.
Chaotic Riffs Magazine.